All right, team, let's dive into some of the more complex trends in educational system. Today, we have a lot to cover. So let's get started with something that's been a quite hot topic, which is the accountability and fairness. Now, when we talk about accountability in education, what exactly do we mean?
Great question. Accountability is essentially about ensuring that both teachers and students are responsible for their learning outcomes. In education, it's about making sure that teachers are delivering lessons effectively and that students are meeting the expectations set by those lessons. Accountability helps maintain a standard for teaching and learning, ensuring that we achieve the desired outcomes.
I agree, but we can't forget that accountability is tied to fairness. And that's where things get tricky. Fairness in education means providing equal opportunities for all students, but there are challenges when you consider the diversity of student needs. For example, students with disabilities or students from disadvantaged background might not always have the same resources or support as others. So, can we truly say that every student is being held accountable if the playing field isn't level?
That's a crucial point. Fairness doesn't always mean equality. For instance, it may be fair to give a student with a learning disability extended time on test. But if we only give extra time to some students and not others, we might create a different kind of unfairness. So, it's about equity, providing each student with what they need to succeed rather than treating everyone the same.
Excellent insights. So, how do we balance accountability and fairness in our assessments? If we hold teachers accountable for their students' outcomes, but those outcomes aren't really fair due to different students' needs, where does that leave us?
That's where differentiated instructions comes into play. Teachers need to be flexible and provide accommodation to ensure fairness. It's not just about assessing whether a student meets the standards. It's also about considering whether the standard is appropriate for every student, given their individual challenges and strengths.
And from testing perspective, this could mean using a variety of assessment methods to allow different students to demonstrate their understanding in different ways. For instance, some students may excel in written assessment while others might perform better in hands-on or performance-based assessment. That's why we need multiple forms of evaluation to get a true picture of each student's ability.
Exactly. And this brings us to standards-based education, which is a system focused on ensuring that all students meet specific, predetermined learning standards. In SBE, the emphasis is on clearly defined expectations. However, when we talk about fairness in SBE, we need to ensure that those standards are meaningful for all students, not just the majority.
Right. So standard-based education is about meeting specific benchmarks. But does that mean we should focus only on those benchmarks? Or is there room for students to show their growth in different ways?
SBE is very focused on consistency, but there's room for flexibility too. The standard should be broad enough to allow teachers to meet students where they are. And while these standards help measure student performance, they shouldn't limit creativity or fail to consider individual learning needs.
I think it's all about finding a balance. Standard-based education can be effective when we use it to guide instruction, but it must also allow room for individualized support. When the focus is solely on meeting standards, teacher might feel pressured to teach to the test rather than teaching in a way that engages all types of learners.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the next topic. Outcome-based education, OBE, focuses on the skills and competences and that students should acquire by the end of their learning journey. In OBE, it's less about the process and more about the end result. Can students apply what they've learned in real-world scenarios?
So, OBE is about focusing on outcomes. It's a shift away from the traditional model, which emphasizes what content is covered, to a model that prioritizes whether students can actually apply what they've learned. But does this mean we should abandon traditional assessment altogether?
Not necessarily. Traditional assessments, like tests, still have value in measuring certain types of knowledge. However, OBE emphasizes the application of the knowledge. So it's about measuring whether students can solve problems, thinking critically, and apply their knowledge in real-world situations.
And that's where performance-based assessments comes in. In OBE, we need to give students opportunities to demonstrate their competencies in practical ways. So we might have students to do projects, engage in simulations, or participate in case studies where they have to apply what they've learned. This allows for a deeper understanding of their abilities.
It sounds ideal, but the question is, how feasible is this in a traditional classroom setting? Can we really replace all tests with the performance tasks? If we do, are we missing out on important foundational knowledge that can only be assessed through traditional set testing?
Those are nice questions. While performance-based assessments give us valuable insights into how students can apply knowledge, we can't ignore traditional assessments altogether. Both have their place. The challenge is finding a balance between the two, ensuring that we don't lose sight of foundational knowledge while also emphasizing practical applications.
That's where item response theory, or IRT, comes in. IRT is a statistical framework that helps us assess how well test items measure different levels of students' ability. It is especially useful in adaptive testing, where the difficulty of the test adjusts to the student's performance. By tailoring assessment to each student's ability, we can get more accurate picture of their strengths and weaknesses.
IRT is a game changer. It moves away from the one-size-fits-all model of testing. Instead of relying on static assessment, IRT uses data to create more personalized tests. This could help address some of the fairness issues we talked about earlier. For instance, a student who is struggling might be given easier questions, while a student who is excelling might face more challenging ones.
But is this feasible in every classroom? To use IRT, we would need advanced technology and reliable data to ensure that tests are adapted correctly. Plus, teachers would need training on how to interpret IRT results and use them to inform their teaching.
True, that's an important consideration. However, as technology continues to improve, the feasibility of using IRT-based assessments becomes more realistic. It's a promising trend, but we need to be mindful of equity in access to technology.
Exactly. It's not just about using new technologies, but ensuring that all students have access to the tools and resources they need. And that's why, as we integrate RET and other modern assessment methods, we need to prioritize fairness and equity, ensuring that no student is left behind due to a lack of resources or support.
So in conclusion, accountability, fairness, standard-based education, outcome-based education, and item response theory all play crucial roles in shaping modern educational assessment. But it's about balancing these elements, ensuring fairness in assessment, using appropriate methods to measure students' growth, and adapting assessment to meet individual needs.
I completely agree. As we move forward, we need to remain flexible and open to new assessment methods while also staying grounded in the principles of fairness and equity. After all, the ultimate goal is to provide every student with the opportunity to succeed and demonstrate their true potential.
Exactly. Let's keep these points in mind as we continue exploring how we can make assessment more effective and meaningful for all students.